and welcome back to the second quarter of the Paddock the Goals. Let's set our GPS to Culgoa, a quaint little gem tucked away in the Mallee region in northwest Victoria. We're talking about 319 kilometres from Melbourne, right on the Calder Highway. Now, don't let the population count fool you. Although it's dipped a little bit since the last census, what Culgoa lacks in numbers, it more than makes up in heart. And speaking of heart, we'd like to introduce you to Tim and Sam Grenda, a dynamic duo who stepped into Culgoa's iconic community store and have been growing it ever since. Welcome to you, Tim and Sam, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, country stores and pubs often serve as the heart and soul of rural communities. They're not just places where you pick up a loaf of bread or enjoy a cold pint. They're community hubs. They're gathering spaces and often the epicentre of local culture and conversation. In essence, the iconic nature of community corner stores and pubs comes from their role as being community pillars. They offer more than goods and services. They provide a sense of belonging and familiarity and community cohesion that's hard to find elsewhere. And I was just recently up there with Sam and Tim. The store was pretty much full and the conversation was live, wasn't it? So, Sam, take us back into Culgoa and let's talk about the corner store and how they serve as gathering points in the community, how your store itself has served as a crucial information point and support, particularly during times of crisis such as our recent floods. Tell us about the conversations that happened at the Culgoa Valley Bunker Cafe.
Thanks, Joe. So we have recently taken over the Culgoa Community Store in the last 14 months or so. And even to us taking over, it was very much the hub of a place where everybody meets in the morning for their newspapers, bread and milk, as you said. And particularly when there are things going on, when there are a crisis like the flood or funerals or whatever, all of the information or a lot of information is available at the store. We allow the posters to be put up, brochures to be left, all of that sort of thing, and people know that they can come to the store and ask us what's going on, what we know, and we're very happy to share all of that sort of information. So even with us being in the store now and post-COVID, we are now more able to have all the tables and chairs. So that has been very much a relief and well received. And it's like walking into your own kitchen at home. It's very much homey feel and we welcome everybody. So it works really, really well in that sense.
It's certainly very, very different to if you were to, say, book a seat at a restaurant in a city or regional venue. You might sit down and have a chat to the people at your table, but scarcely would you probably go across and talk to the other people in the room. But in the country areas, such as cafes like yourself, it's all in, isn't it? All the conversations had and everyone's having a bit of a chime in from each table. Okay, Tim, take us back to that week just before Culgoa was flooded. Can you talk us through that experience, how the town came together and how that information started feeding through the Culgoa store and how you helped each other to prepare?
8 to 10 days before the flood got to Culgoa, we have farmers that are on Tyrrell Creek. Some houses are quite close to Tyrrell Creek. So we were getting information probably 8 to 10 days before with people closely watching it and telling us what was happening, and then for farmers coming in and asking us, has it left the Avoca at Charlton yet? Has it crossed the Bort Witchy Road? Has it crossed the Donald Swan Hill Road? And then it sort of got into our zone 3 or 4 days out, and it really ramped up, and we were getting sort of 2 or 3 hourly updates. There was people in and out of the shop all the time and ringing up asking what we knew, what the Shire had told us.
It was very much a sneaky flood, wasn't it? Sort of just a slow creep up on everyone.
That's right.
So, Sam, what parts of the community you said were actually flooded? How is your business perhaps impacted, or maybe there was some positive highlights if we can find those in these times? Because imagining, people coming to the stop to your shop and probably having a drink just next door at the pub afterwards too. Probably saw a few more people hanging around that you might not have seen before.
We most certainly did, Joe. We had a lot of agencies in town, the SES, Mallee Catchment Authority and the Shire. They were all working very hard. They had meetings at the hall. We had meetings at the shop as well to start things off, a bit of community concern. They had questions that weren't being answered, and then we got all these agencies in who were able to outline the plan of what they thought was going to happen, and compared to 2016 and 2011, it was very interesting to have a lot of water around us that I've never seen, and we haven't been here that long, about 4 years. And suddenly we had this water views and frogs croaking, and it was beautiful in a sense, but also that underlying fear of what was going to happen. Our business probably overall I don't think was too badly affected at all. We were new to owning the shop, so we still hadn't implemented a number of things at that point. So it was a matter of, for us, just being the hub and listening to people what they needed help. And we still had the trucks coming through because they were obviously a little bit better able to manoeuvre the water on the road. Some of the delivery trucks were impacted, so we had fairly good stores of things. We just had to be mindful of if someone was going into town, whether they could get stuff back for us. It was all about really good community communication, and everybody being very supportive of us being new, and for us to be supportive of our community as well.
Fantastic. It was fantastic that you're all banded together and watching out for each other. Tim, I've heard of many people who operate general stores and cafes, but not so many that religiously watch Landline to learn more about the weather forecast. I know you've got a bit of a farming background, but I'm pretty sure they're in Melbourne, they're not watching the forecast like you do, checking in to see how it's going to impact the farmers in the district. So considering that, give us a bit of an update of what's happening in the community right now. How's the community feeling? What's the crops looking like? There was a bit of a talk about a bit of a dry spring. What's the local situation and how they're feeling at the moment?
The crops look fantastic, as you noticed yesterday. The reason I watch Landline is because I do have a farming background, but also our business is impacted by the local farming community. If they're going well, they're happy to spend money in our shop. And if we get a drought year, it's like everyone, they tighten their purse strings. And that's why I watch the weather to sort of gauge how the farmers are going. We're one good rain away from a bumper year. All in all, we're sort of happy, but we would love another, decent 25 mil of rain between now and harvest.
Given the role of agriculture in communities like Colgoa, your business model, as just was explained, is really dependent on local agriculture. They're so important to have as meeting places, as we've just discussed. How are you planning to develop your business to ensure sustainability yourselves? What advice or what have you looked into, or what advice have you been given to help look at us creating a sustainable future so that you can be there to support your community and vice versa?
So our business model obviously revolves around agriculture and farming. And, the bigger farms, they often want to cater for their workers. So we try and work with them as to what they need and how they want it presented, and how often. When it all boils down to it, it's about word of mouth. So try and ensure quality and quantity. We don't do things small at the Mallee Bunker. You want a muffin, you get a decent sized muffin. And it's all about continuing on having that meeting place. We don't want to make any big changes in that respect. We always want to have that space for people to come in. The community have been very supportive of us, and we want to pay back in that respect as well.
That's terrific. Now, Tim and Sam, sometimes we take for granted the real value of the places where we live. Sometimes we overlook those really important things and really do take them for granted. We often hear about architects in our cities building spaces for people to gather, to create communities in their design. Maybe it's not easy to replicate. So just tell us about some of the things at Colgoa that you believe makes it super special.
We are halfway between Bendigo and Mildura, so we get a lot of families that just want to get the kids out of the car, get them onto swings and get them doing something. We've got our shop where they can get lollies and ice creams and stuff. For the older people, just if they want to stretch their legs, they can go for a walk. And in the community, everyone knows everyone. Like, in the cities, people walk past us, don't say anything. They don't say hi. They don't, anything. And in here, everyone is warm, just that sort of stuff. It's just good community.
So there's much to be said about small rural communities in their security for people, making them feel welcome, making them feel needed, making them feel like they have a place to belong. So thank you very much to the pair of you for coming in today. We really, really appreciated your learning about your experiences of what happened, and wish you all the best in your venture. And please keep those cars rolling in, and let's see Colgoa continue to grow.
Thank you very much, Jo.
Thank you, Jo.
All right. We'll see you on the other side for the third quarter of the Paddock the Goals.